They don't recognize it today, but they start thinking, you start getting them aware that there is potentially even a problem that they might have. And that's how you kind of move them up this conveyor belt of thinking about their buying decision.
Get to know your marketing funnel with me, Ben Browning, in the Recruiting Better podcast. I'm here to explain principles like market segmentation with insights like...
So if we think about that marketing funnel, that pyramid of people, where they sit in their buyer's journey, are they in the top 3% who are actively looking?
It's time to learn how to target people who are ready to buy and drive conversations through your marketing funnel.
If you're thinking about this from the candidate perspective or even the client perspective, your job adverts on various job boards. So you want to be thinking about how can you put yourself out there? How can you put your core message out on different channels?
Stay tuned to find out how to create content for each stage of the funnel to help people move forwards towards buying from you. I hope you enjoy this episode. Please give it a like if you do. And if you have any questions you'd like me to answer or put to future guests, you can join the Recruiting Better community through the link in the description. But for now, let's get to it.
Welcome back to another episode of the Recruiting Better podcast with me, Ben Browning. And in this extra special deep dive episode, I'm going to break down the marketing funnel so that you can understand where the employers who may become future clients of yours are sitting in their buyer journey so that you can target with them with the right message at the right time based on how interested they are or how ready they are to become your client. Smart recruiters know that your clients will sit in an ecosystem or a journey of their intent to buy. 3% of the people in your target market will be ready to become your customers today. So when you pick up the phone or send them a message, they're either, first of all, actively looking to hire, or secondly, really actively thinking about changing their recruitment supplier or the way they go about hiring for future hiring processes. They are the sorts of people who have had their fingers burnt or been through a bad experience with current suppliers, who have just gone through expansion, or for some other reason are entering that zone of thinking about considering what to do or who to use for their next vacancies. The next 7%, 6 to 7% of people are out there are thinking about whether they might need to change. They're open to the idea of changing. Perhaps they're slightly dissatisfied with their current supplier, or their business is changing or growing in the future, and they're thinking that perhaps they might need to do something about making a shift in terms of who they're working with and how they're going about filling their roles. The next 30% of people are open to the potential of changing. They've got some acceptance that there are other recruiters out there who may be able to do a better job for them. They're not actively looking, they're not even really considering it right now, but they're just aware that there are other possibilities out there. The next block of the marketing funnel will be people who are interested in the potential of changing, or interested in the potential of working with a different provider or supplier, working with a different recruiter, but they're not particularly interested in working with you. In fact, they've got some reservations or some feeling that means that they're unlikely to work with you. And the final 30% are people who are simply not interested, they're not relevant, they're not going to work with you, and they've already closed their mind around that decision. So if we think about that marketing funnel, that pyramid of people, where they sit in their buyer's journey, are they in the top 3% who are actively looking, really seeking another provider right now? Are they in the next 7% who are open to it, not actively looking, but are kind of thinking about that challenge? We might think about those as passive candidates. The next 30% are people who recognise that there could be a better solution out there but aren't really in the market to do anything about it. The next group of people are people who may have some desire to change at some point, but they're not ready right now, and they probably have some reservations about working with you. And the final tier, just you're not going to win their business. So if we want to better understand exactly how to use our sales and marketing strategies to combine them into something that works for us to really generate revenue and really build our businesses or our billings, then we need to understand the right strategies for people at different parts of that journey. We need to understand and think about, what is it going to take for me to land the right message with someone who is let's say, at the top of that funnel. They have the strongest urgency around changing their provider. And equally, how does that strategy or approach differ if those people are further back in the buyer's journey and have less intention of changing the way that they go about recruiting or changing the recruiter that they work with anytime soon? So let's start off by thinking about those people who have the strongest intent, the strongest desire to change. As we said earlier, they've likely had their fingers burnt a little bit with working with a recruiter in the past, or maybe for some reason they've got a new piece of recruitment that is up and coming. And remember, good recruiters, good perm recruiters are not only selling the ability to fill a role, not only selling your ability to make placements with that client, but actually to transform the way they hire. So this could be that those individuals either have a hiring need coming up and they're looking for somebody to fill it, if that's the kind of recruiter that you want to be. On the other hand, they may be thinking, you know what, we've been struggling to hire, and actually the reason is we don't think we've got the right hiring strategy in place. So I hope we can work with a recruiter. We're going to go out and seek to work with a recruiter who can better help us navigate our hiring strategy. In that situation, the right thing to be doing is lots of branding work, lots of marketing work, so that as those people go out to do their research, as those people go out to find you, they see you in different places. Daniel Priestley has a model called the 7-11-4 model. I'm going to try and get this right. So that means that you're looking for people will buy from you if they have 7 touch points with you over 4 channels lasting 11 hours. So those 7 touch points could be seeing a post that you've put up, or hearing your name in a WhatsApp channel, seeing something you've written, or receiving a call or an email from you. You need 7 touch points for someone to get to the place where they feel really comfortable in switching to you. You want to be present over 4 channels. Those channels would include LinkedIn, almost certainly for recruiters, but they also might include a YouTube channel or a podcast, a series of events, a Substack or newsletter, a variety of different places, including your website, and potentially, if you're thinking about this from the candidate perspective or even the client perspective, your job adverts on various job boards. So you want to be thinking about how can you put yourself out there? How can you put your core message out on different channels so that your clients are likely to find you in at least 4 different places? If you want to get a bit more granular on this, it's worth thinking about or talking to existing clients or candidates about where they look for recruitment suppliers or where they go to find other suppliers for other types of topics. Because if they don't spend most of their time on LinkedIn, or they do spend most of their time on TikTok, then you want to be changing up where you're putting your content, making it available to people where they're most likely to pick it up. The final part of the 7-4-11 model that Daniel Priestley talks about is the 11 hours of content. So we're really talking about a real depth. We're talking about the ability for somebody to really binge on your content, reading long form, well thought out, thought provoking content, listening to podcasts, watching videos on YouTube. These are where you can really rack up the depth of the content and the depth of the ideas that you share. Short form content on LinkedIn is a starting point. Most of you listening to this show will have started off by seeing my posts on LinkedIn at some point. And that's great. Short form post is absolutely great. But I'm noticing and I'm hearing a lot of kind of feedback from the general audience at the moment saying that LinkedIn isn't what it used to be. And maybe they're getting a bit disillusioned with the whole piece around LinkedIn at the moment and getting disillusioned with short form content. So taking your network out of LinkedIn, which is always going to be dominated by short form posts, and shifting them into a place where you can write 1,000, 1,500 word articles, where you can, or channels where you can put longer form posts, podcasts and videos. That is going to be a really effective strategy to building up your likelihood of capturing those people right at that point where they're thinking about shifting or changing supplier or changing what they're doing. Winning high quality new business is more difficult than ever. And as you know, we are strong advocates of using email in your BD outreach. But we also know that using email outreach campaigns is more and more difficult. Google and Yahoo have upped the bar in terms of what they consider to be spam, and so working to create great results from email campaigns is more and more difficult. And if you're sending messages at volume from your primary domain, you really need to be worried about domain health. Not to mention the fact that only the most hyper-relevant, hyper-tailored content is going to get the kinds of responses you want from your clients. Our partner Outstation does all of the heavy lifting for you. It's an amazing tool that runs end-to-end services from data collection through segmentation, through using AI to really target and get specific about who you're sending messages to. Is a real game changer in terms of the way that we use both a combination of technology and that human touch. Outstation goes a level beyond anything that we've ever seen before. And we've got clients all over the world in different sectors across recruitment who are getting fantastic results just from using the tools at Outstation. If you want to check it out, head to the show notes. There's a link there for you. And if you go through to their page, they will give you 15% off a discount from your first order. So go check out Outstation, change your results from your email campaigns, and it'll help you win more business. And a lot of that 7-11-4 strategy will relate to how you win businesses that are at the next level in the pipeline too. The next tier of people then are people who the timing is right, they're very much thinking that they might change. They're the people who would always say, hi, you know what, we definitely are going to change, but we're still weighing up our options. So these are the people who will give you the really good intent signals, probably feature quite highly in your callbacks and in your follow-ups, but never quite seem to make a decision. Or if they do make a decision, perhaps you miss it. So what can you do about those people? Well, those are the people who you need to be really active in terms of your outreach around. Those are the people you're most likely to catch with outbound. And that's why outbound is so powerful. There's always going to be this 3% of people at the top of the funnel who will buy something from somebody immediately because they have a pressing need. But the next group of people, the dawdlers, the lurkers, the ones who are kind of weighing up and mulling over decisions, they're the ones who we need really effective outbound for. And because they're already starting to think about that decision-making process, because they're already starting to become aware of the problem and the challenge that they face, our messaging needs to be hyper relevant. This is why we talk about relevancy in outbound as being such a key principle. The personalization bit works to a certain extent, and we'll talk about that when we talk about the next tier of people, the next 30% of people likely or considering a potential decision. But most of your business will be won in this top 10% of this funnel. We're not just talking about that first 3%, but we're then talking about the next 6 to 7%, the people who are conscious they need to make a decision but are dawdling and are mulling it over. And that 6 to 7% of people don't need personalized contact. They don't need to feel as though you've specifically selected them. It helps, but the messaging needs to be hyper relevant, and it needs to be specifically relevant around the problems that they're seeing, the challenges that they're facing, and the end goal or the end outcome that they really want to achieve. Not about your solution. I've done other episodes, lots of other content around outreach specifically, but these are the things we need to be thinking about for these buyers who are at this point where now probably is roughly the right time to make a decision. And if they had the right support in making that decision, they would get there, but they need a little bit of a nudge off the cliff into your arms to be saved from whatever bad future would await them without making that switch. So the way we're going to do that is by creating messaging that is really, really specifically focused on the problems they face and the way they might see that. So if I was talking to a hiring manager or a client who I want to work with, bear in mind that my brand of recruitment is always going to be about helping those businesses transform hiring into a competitive advantage. My message would be something along the lines of this. No doubt you like other hiring managers with the same job title in this sector have seen that the pressure of growing fast when you've got investors behind you, and if you're anything like them, you've probably also recognized that pressure to grow rapidly causes some friction. Firstly, it can cause snap decisions, which lead you to overpay or settle for mediocre candidates. Secondly, it can lead you to run up short on candidates. Your own network maybe isn't providing the volume of applicants that you need to make consistently good quality hires. And if it's neither of those two things, it's probably the fact that all of your time is being pulled into hiring in order to support the demands of the investors who are looking for you to grow quickly. But that time is pulling you away from key client work, key projects, billable hours, or even generating revenue, which you'd otherwise be doing. When we include those kind of specifics in messaging and in outreach to clients, when we're able to go into emails or phone calls with a real clarity around the problems they're likely to face, that's when they start thinking, yeah, this person's got exactly what I need. Solutions don't sell very well. We use solutions much further down the pipeline in terms of that conversation. But to start conversations and to get things ticking over and to bring those people into your ecosystem and into conversation with you, the best way to go about that is take a real effective outbound methodology that is all based around the problems that you can solve. So what about the next 30%? The next 30% of people that you want to be talking to are ones who are, they have a problem. It's building up in the background. Perhaps they're aware of it, maybe not really aware of it. They don't really care. What we're talking about here is people who are they do recruit, they do hire. Every time they've recruited in the past, it's been a bit of a problem. Nothing bad's happened. They're not going through any hyper growth at the moment. So it's all okay. And most of the time, you're going to lose out to the status quo. If you were able to overcome the status quo, if you were able to get those people to recognize the amount of problem that they were suffering from, or the value of the problem that they were suffering from, and the fact that there is a easy and effective solution, then you could win that business. You could win that business. But in order to do that, you're going to need to do a few things. First of all, you're going to need to get your client to recognize the problems that they're suffering with. So how do you do that as a recruiter? Well, the first thing is you need to understand as a recruiter, what specific problems do you solve? The easiest ones to look at are time to hire, quality of hire, risk, and then beyond that, diversity of hire, stakeholder alignment, stakeholder satisfaction, the overall kind of recruitment experience. So we've got time, quality, and risk, or cost, but we'll call it risk in this example, and then the overall overarching experience of hiring. It's very likely that the way you recruit, if you're a good recruiter, can help your clients or can move your clients forwards in one of those areas, right? If it can't, you're probably finding yourself consistently losing business to your competitors and finding it really difficult to win quality new business. So the first thing we need to make sure is that you have got a methodology, you've got an approach, and that you can describe how you're able to move people forwards in terms of reducing the amount of time recruitment takes, reducing the amount of risk involved in making hires, and increasing the quality of the hires they make, or improving their overarching experience of recruitment. But the way that we're going to do that with this tranche of people who aren't actively seeking a new supplier or aren't really thinking about change at the moment, telling them that we can solve their problem doesn't make any sense because they don't recognise that they do have a problem.
Standing out in your sector is becoming harder than ever. Lots of people are making noise, saturating the market with the same old droll tones. So if you want to stand out, it's time to start a podcast. Yes, there's loads of podcasts out there, but how many of them are actually in your niche? Do any of them speak to your perspective on the market? I didn't think so. Podcasting not only sets you apart as an innovative thinker in your market, it is great content for repurposing. Here at Search That, we help you become the voice of your industry. We can stretch your content and turn it into a content goldmine, leveling up your personal brands and recruitment marketing in the process. Sounds good, doesn't it? Well, to find out more, head over to searchdat.co.uk/podcasts.
So what we're going to do is, first of all, we've got to illuminate the problem that they have. This involves case studies, white papers, reports, events. It involves relentless and consistent messaging, letting people know that there's a significant gap between the average and the results that you get for your clients. So the way that we're going to be doing that is we're going to be talking about percentages. We're going to be talking about minutes, hours, and days involved in the hiring process. We're going to be talking about the overarching hiring experience. We're going to be talking about those problems that we used in our outreach, but in repetitive marketing messaging that goes out to everyone in your broader database. So let's just think about what that specifically might look like. I want to run a project on the people who have joined up for my newsletter or attended a webinar or requested a white paper from me in the past. They engaged more than 90 days ago and we've failed to convert them to a client. So my marketing strategy is going to look at the topic that they engage with initially, or think about my roster of kind of benefits that I can sell to my client, be that time, risk, or quality of candidate or overarching experience. And I run a campaign around the amount of time that recruitment takes. So I say, look, one of the biggest frustrations for an organisation scaling fast, having just got investment and looking to achieve some really ambitious growth plans, is the amount of time it takes to grow a great team. And for lots of the leaders that we work with, they're happy to set aside a significant portion of their weekly or monthly hours to grow a team because they recognise as a leader it is the most important thing that they can do right now. However, one of their biggest frustrations is the percentage of time they spend with candidates who simply aren't hireable. What we tend to find is that as across the industry average, 60% of the time the hiring managers spend with candidates are hireable candidates, meaning 40% of their time is completely wasted. So how do you get that number down from 40% down to something that's more palatable? Now, most hiring managers say they don't mind spending time with even a few unhireable candidates, providing the vast majority are hireable. So how can we get that number down to 10%? How could we get you to a place where as a hiring manager, 90% of the candidates you're meeting are hireable? And in articulating that story and that messaging and really focusing on that shift, we're starting to give people a bit of a visualization. They're thinking, where am I on that scale? When I think about the candidates I've met this week, were they good? Were they okay? Were they not okay? I thought it was okay to meet 60% hireable candidates, but actually, I'd love to get that down to 90%. In our messaging, then we need to go on to say, what would you do with that 30%, or how valuable is that 30% to you, and what are you missing out on? There's a business that do this brilliantly, actually. Might surprise you, but the advertising slogan used by Sky TV, or certainly used to be used by Sky TV, is believe in better. I'd love to sell a product where the slogan or the advertising tagline is believe in better, because no matter what other solution your clients are currently using, all you have to do is ask them whether they believe in better. And I like to think even us kind of grumpy Brits, right, conservative, pessimistic, potentially always worrying about the downside rather than more than being excited about the upside. Even for us, I think there's this real opportunity in that language of, do you believe that this could be any better? Do you believe that your current situation is as good as it could possibly get? And it's that language, that narrative, that direction you want to take people in, where they sit in that 30%, in that group of people in your target market who things aren't going perfectly, but they're not looking to change right now. The next group is much tougher to speak to. The next group is this segment of people for whom they're not really even aware of any challenges or problems. So it's going to be much harder for you to engage them in conversation. My strongest advice here is to focus all of your attention on the top 40% of your funnel. So the 3% who are actively looking that you do through branding and content and that inbound strategy. The next 7% who you're really focusing all of your outbound messaging around. And then the next 30% where you have some a marketing campaign, an outbound marketing campaign and branding that is all around the problems that you solve. If you get those groups right, then you're in a really good place. And what you'll tend to see if you think about that mix is that those people will start to share that message outwardly. So once you start presenting case studies or advocacy, your reviews, testimonials, those sorts of things, once you start presenting them more consistently to your audience, some of those people in that next 30% group will start looking around thinking, oh, hang on, maybe we should have a problem. Like they don't recognize it today, but they start thinking, oh, you start getting them aware that there is potentially even a problem that they might have. And that's how you kind of move them up this conveyor belt of thinking about their buying decision. So what we often find in general, right, and this is kind of a bit of a summary across that pipeline. What we often find is that recruiters who do really well at the start of their career tend to pick up one or two clients who come from that first 3%. So those people are actively looking to change their supplier. They were really thinking about where they were going to take their business, which recruitment or agency they were going to work with next. They were dissatisfied. They'd had their fingers burnt. They were ready to move. And your colleague happened to catch them at the right particular moment. And those businesses went on to be big recruiters, and as a result, they really supported the growth of your colleague's career. Perhaps because they knew they had some cash coming in, they were more motivated to do BD, because it's always easier to do BD when you know you've got a little bit in the bank already, when you know you've got a little bit of pipeline coming in. It gives you more confidence. It makes you feel a bit more like a winner before you even start. So what we often see is that people who pick up business early in their career pick it up from that 3%. Some will have done really good sales and outbound work to go out and find clients and generate them themselves, but very often, they have picked up clients that are potentially low-hanging fruit and really kind of capitalized on the opportunity of the first 3%. And those clients are really available to you too. So having that inbound strategy is really powerful, but the value of well thought out strategic outbound that really targets those people who are starting to worry about the problem that they've got in their business and start to think about maybe there's a better way. If you can really nail that, then you're going to get some excellent results. That's going to be the moment, the real pivotal shift in generating more revenue. The next tranche, the next piece around having that systematic marketing campaign that wraps around everything you do and talks about the key problems that you solve, the things that you're talking about in your outbound, that will then really add an extra dimension to your go-to-market strategy, your revenue generating strategy, and that will help you push revenue even further. But if I were talking to a recruiter today about how to combine sales and marketing activity with inbound and outbound strategies to generate the best possible results, this is the advice that I would give them. I hope you found this episode valuable and that you'll be able to go and take some tactical steps based on everything you've heard. Just a last one from me. If you're enjoying the show, please hit follow. And don't forget that the link to the Recruiting Better community is in the show notes. Head over there where you'll get all of our latest articles, including written content, long form, deep dive content that'll help you put lots of the strategies we share on the podcast into action, and also details about upcoming events and offers that we've got that we're sharing with the community. So jump in there and see what you think of it.